Top Pentagon leaders will face lawmakers tomorrow to testify before the House Defense Appropriations Panel. Current military leadership is expected to defend the woke policies instituted by the current President Joe Biden. Conservative lawmakers have said these policies are weakening the armed forces as well as driving down recruitment.
Joining us now to discuss, Ambassador from the America First Policy Institute and retired Gunnery Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps, Jessie Jane Duff, plus the host of the nationally syndicated Eat, Drink, Smoke radio show, Tony Katz. Jessie, let me ask you first. The way we presented that is they're going to talk to some people about how do these policies get implemented under the Biden administration. To be fair or accurate, doesn't it go back beyond that? I mean, I know it's really been bubbling up even more so, but it's not like this just started on the 20th of January, 2021. It seems like over the years there's been this move to somehow soften what they're doing in the military.
I would agree to a point, but I would say what the Biden administration and their Pentagon has done has been dramatic. It's been literally a gut punch in this past 2 years when they took out 8,100 men and women who wear this uniform because they refused to get the vaccination. And then they complain because they can't meet their recruiting goals. Go figure. 3,700 of those young men and women were Marines. Now, I dare to say there could be some that were discharged for other disciplinary measures or whatnot. But even if you took half that number, you can't afford the amount of money and effort that goes into the training of all of these young men and women. They're the best and the brightest, when less than about 15% of the age group that can join the military is even qualified to join the military. And then out of that, who can you get to recruit to join? Less than 1% of this nation serves. And they basically hit this military with a sledgehammer with the transgender policies and what they did to them with the vaccination.
Yeah, Tony, speaking of the transgender policies, one of the very first things President Biden did as president was to allow transgender troops to openly serve in the military. Not only that, but he advocated for allowing sex change operations on active duty soldiers, all on the taxpayer's dime. Now, this, even though many military analysts warn that pushing individuals with existing gender dysphoria into a stressful military environment could have devastating consequences. Your reaction to this? It just seems like it's more about what is a trend versus actually doing what is best for the country.
And this was a conversation a few years ago. It was a conversation under President Trump as well. I've talked to people in the military, and Jessie Jane might see it differently than I do, who would argue that people who are transgender are not a threat to military readiness. And the only question that matters, it's true of Congressman Jim Banks, it's true of Senator Marco Rubio, as they're putting some of this legislation forward. Is this a threat to military readiness? And from what I have heard, that's not the actual threat. The threat to military readiness is not actually training a military to go kill the enemy, to actually defend the country. That's the fundamental issue. The DEI conversation is about where your focus is. If you go back to some of the images you were putting up, one of them was somebody celebrating pride. Is that the image that I saw? I want the U.S. military ready to fight, and I don't want to hear them talking about Pride or Pride Month. I don't want to hear them talking about their sexuality. I want to hear about them ready to fight, ready to kill the enemy, ready to do the job that needs to be done. And if there is anything, and I mean anything, that takes away from that part of the mission, that level of readiness, then that is what needs to be extricated from the military.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to jump in. It does threaten military readiness, and I will tell you why. Number one, it's not true that Joe Biden's letting transgender serve openly. Donald Trump did too. The difference was they had to serve after they've already had their surgery, number one. Number two, lived in the gender 5 years and had doctor's clarification that they were able to serve. Because we know with gender dysphoria, there's been a high rate of suicide, number one. Number two, when a troop has to be removed from the capability of being deployed to receive surgery. Now, mind you, people with LASIK surgery aren't allowed to get it. People with flat feet aren't allowed to serve. Gastric bypass surgery is not allowed. I could give you a litany of 1,000 medical issues that are not allowed to serve that could be corrected with surgery. Why should they be able to? Why shouldn't they are not able to deploy while they recover from that very severe surgery? Number one. Number two, if they go and serve with women, then the transgender women who used to be males, what are they going to do? Go to boot camp with these women, shower with these women, birth, meaning go to sleeping quarters with women? It does impact in military readiness, particularly because the surgery requires them to be taken off the battlefield. They can no longer deploy, and they have to be replaced by a military member who does not need surgery.
And that's called making an argument. Jesse's making an argument. And now it's up to the people on the political left to try and counter her argument. That's exactly what has to be done. There's a rationale that Jesse is using and saying, hey, this is why it doesn't work. Now let people try and argue that, other than saying, well, it's just mean. No one cares about me.
And by the way, you
gotta have readiness.
I would also compliment not just Jesse, but you, Tony, because I think our recruiting is missing the point when you're talking about what a great career it can be. No, we should be focused on our country is at threat right now. There are countries out there that want to destroy us. I'm sorry, but China is not just our competitor. They actually are dangerous. We should start letting people know we need you to help defend our country.
Right.
People like Jesse should be doing that.
Exactly. Tony Katz, did Jessie Jane change your mind?
Well, it's not that my mind has to be changed. She's making an argument. I like arguments. I told you what I heard from somebody in the military. Jesse's giving a very different point of view. Let that be the discussion, but don't let anybody tell you you have to, because otherwise it's mean, or otherwise you're being rude, or you're being transphobic. All of those things are a bunch of garbage nonsense.
All right. Love having you two together. Jessie Jane Duff, Tony Katz, thank you.